All right, welcome everyone to episode 18 of ASRG World, the COVID-approved version of ASRG. My name is John Heldreth. I'm the founder and your host for tonight for this webinar. We have a really cool presentation tonight, guys. Faye Francie is with us. She's going to talk about the Auto-ISAC. If you don't know what that is, you're probably living under a rock. But if you don't know what it is, we're going to tell you all about it tonight. But before we go into our presentation, let's take a look and do a little survey like we like to do most of the times. And of course, the first question that we always have for everybody is, where are you joining us from tonight? So the way that you can participate in this survey, this is totally anonymous. We don't keep any data on this or anything. But if you go to pollev.com/ASRG, then you can just go on your mobile phone or on your browser, wherever you are, and put that in. You don't have to put your name or anything. Just a start survey, and then you can click on the map like, okay, where am I joining from tonight? So the idea here is that we just get an idea of who is joining. Maybe people are joining from different parts of the world. Maybe you see people that you didn't know are near you. So this is a way for us to, in this Corona time, be a little bit interactive with a webinar. So I see some people joining from the UK. Welcome, guys. Germany as well. Welcome. All right, and don't get out of the survey or anything quite yet, because I have two more questions for you. We're going to talk a little bit about the ASRG, and if you do know about it and what you do or what you think it means. So don't leave the screen. I'm going to go to the next question here in just a few minutes. Looks like India is also joining us tonight. Welcome, guys. US, great. All right, so let's go ahead to the next question. You can still answer the questions as we continue on to the next ones, but let me just go over here and let's go to the next question. All right, and so the next question, because our topic today is Auto-ISAC, the question is, who knows what the Auto-ISAC is? And then I have written down here 4 answers. Yes, my company is a member. Yes, but my company is not a member. I have heard about it, but I'm not really sure what it means. No, I haven't heard about it, the Auto-ISAC yet. So go ahead, go to pollev.com/ASRG, and you can just answer the question on your mobile phone or in the browser or whatever. We're not collecting any data here, but it's nice to see who knows what about the subject, so we can get an idea of what participants are in the are out there listening. So it looks like right now around 25% of the people answering are saying, yes, my company is a member. I know what it is. About 25% are saying, yeah, but my company is not a member. 25% are also saying, I've heard about it. And the last one, 25, I think 4 people are answering the questions here. 25% are saying, no, I haven't heard of the Auto-ISAC. But that'll all change tonight, so stay tuned, okay? We're going to have one more question here. And the last question is, the abbreviation for Auto-ISAC stands for, and then here I have 4 answers as well. Auto-ISAC stands for Automated Intelligence Standards Associations and Committees as number 1. Or The abbreviation for Auto-ISAC stands for Automotive Information Sharing and Analysis Center. The third one is Auto Information Service and Coordination. And the last one is Automotive Intelligence Security Alliance Cooperation. So if you guys have no idea, don't worry. You don't have to give an answer, but for the people that do think they know what Auto-ISAC stands for, go ahead and feel free to answer. Looks like most of the people are answering well. They believe it is the second answer, which is Automotive Information Sharing and Analysis Center. I can't tell you if that's completely right or not right now, but during the presentation, I'm sure that Faye Francie will be going through this and clarifying this for us. So very good, guys. Thank you so much for participating. You know, this helps kind of be a little interactive when we have to do webinars, so I really appreciate the effort. All right, but let's take a little introduction into ASRG before we get into the presentation with Faye. First of all, let me quickly introduce myself. As I said, my name is John Heldreth. I'm the founder of Automotive Security Research Group, or ASRG. I have worked in the automotive industry for, well, the past 15 years or so, and recently started focusing on product security. I'm originally from Detroit, Michigan, in the USA, but today I'm living in Germany and working at Porsche Engineering as the product security team lead. Please feel free to contact me, follow me on LinkedIn or other social media platforms. I love to always meet new people. So just quickly, I want to give an overview of what the Automotive Security Research Group is. We are a nonprofit company focusing on the advancement of the automotive security industry. This is a community to support the coming together of two areas of competencies: the IT security market and the automotive market. This is a community for you. It's for the automotive engineer, for the IT security specialist, for the beginner, for the expert, for the hobbyist, even for the people that might be just in the wrong YouTube channel. We're trying to remove the boundaries that can occur in the automotive security industry. This could be communication, location, finding different ways to learn or different solutions, making good decisions, because at the end of the day, we all have the same goals. And we're trying to keep our customers, which is our families, our friends, even our enemies, the data from these people safe and secure, which we can only achieve together. So we focus on three areas of development: knowledge, networking, and collaboration. For knowledge, we focus on increasing the security-related competencies within the automotive industry to ensure that the people working on the solutions for automotive products have the necessary information to make the best decisions or recommendations or so on. Basically, we want to make sure that everyone has the opportunity to learn and grow in the automotive security field. Networking. If you can't find the information, then having a network of professionals is very important. They might know where to look, have different experiences, recommendations, a different knowledge base. We can't know everything ourselves. However, as a community, we are stronger. Together, we can support each other. The last point is collaboration. Since ASRG is a nonprofit, we have an unbiased position and offer a space where members and sponsors can innovate outside of the company. This innovation is organized into projects. Some of these projects include threat intelligence. We're right now developing a member portal, and so on. If you want to get more involved and create an impact on the industry, please send us an email at hello@asrg.io or reach out to us over Slack, Telegram, or even sending us an old school letter. All of the links are listed in the YouTube description below. So please come be a part. Just quickly, I want to show you that ASRG is a worldwide organization. Currently, we have 4,753 members today, which is, from my point of view, really amazing. This is 29 locations worldwide, and you can see here all of the different locations that we have around the world. And it's really an interesting concept because ASRG does not create locations where there's no need. Usually, people come to us and say, hey, listen, I think we need to have ASRG in my city. And this is how it was with all of these different locations. So it makes me very proud that people come and ask, hey, listen, I want to have an ASRG location near me. Can I do it? And of course, we discuss it, make sure it is right for the situation. And then before you know it, you have 29 locations worldwide. If you want to have your own ASRG location, please get in contact with me. info@asrg.io, and we can discuss what is possible. Okay, we have some great webinars coming up, not only today's webinar, but this month is awesome. Just so everybody knows, we have DEF CON 28. And if you don't know what DEF CON is, it's the world's largest security hacker convention in the world. It's usually in Las Vegas. This week is virtual. Unfortunately, with the corona situation, everything has gone virtual, of course, including DEF CON. So I'm also supporting DEF CON 28, the car hacking village. I'm responsible for the 101 topics, so the beginner orientation stuff. And so we will have many different talks about CAN bus, Bluetooth, or how to do all this hacking on vehicles. And this starts actually tomorrow. So check it out. Go to the DEF CON website, go to the Car Hacking Village website, check out the schedules, see who's talking. I'll be there. Come join me. Looking forward to it. August 13th, we have Ali Abazi. He's from the University of Bochum. He's going to be talking about from attackers to defenders, challenges in securing embedded systems OS. Really interesting stuff. Embedded systems OS. Really cool. August 13th, we have Houston. We have a problem. This is Vic Harness from F-Secure. She's going to have a great talk about connected autonomous vehicles, CAV. August 20th, we're not exactly sure what the title of the talk is going to be. I'm not exactly sure I can actually say who is speaking, but let's just say it's automotive related, okay? So really cool talks coming up here in August. Looking forward to it. We also have a really cool thing coming. So I don't know if you guys were able to participate last time in the Secure Code Warrior tournament that we had. It was really good. If you are a software developer, and if you think you know about secure code development, this is the tournament for you. So ASRG and Secure Code Warrior have come together, and they're offering their platform and the tournament August 28th through the 30th. And there's going to be a competition. There's going to be prizes. There's a lot of helpful documentation. Even I tried to do it a little bit because I'm not a software coder. And I was even able to see that I can get some of the beginner stuff. Come join us for this. It's going to be really cool. I'm looking forward to it. I will see you there as well. Very good, guys. I know I talk too much, but that's the end of my talk. I have Faye Francie here. She's a dear friend over the past few years. She is the executive director of the Auto-ISAC. And the Auto-ISAC is keeping itself busy trying to ensure that secure products are on the automotive market. And I really appreciate all the work that Faye Francie has done here, and really looking forward to your talk, Faye. So actually, I would like to now hand it over to you, Faye.
Great, thank you, John. And audio coming through good?
It is.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much for that very kind introduction. And it's a real pleasure to be with ASRG today and my good friend, John. He does amazing work, and I just can't applaud enough his passion and what he's done, I think, since we met 3 years ago, John. Very impressive with where you've taken ASRG.
Thank
And
you.
that's just really great news for me to hear. So, and I love what you did with the poll. So, if you're starting to share my slides, folks will figure out whether they had gotten it right as far as what does Automotive ISAC stand for. And so I'm here to talk a lot about what we do as an industry and how we're doing it. And it's a little bit different than what John has done. And both are so really important for our community, for our greater community. So Auto-ISAC really stands for Automotive Information Sharing and Analysis Center. So for those of you that got that right, great. And we'll talk about today not only the ISAC and how we were birthed, but also how we are collaborating and how we do that with member companies, right? So we are very focused on actual companies, and you'll see the list of companies as well. And so with that, I'm going to go ahead and get started. If that's okay, John?
Yep, please.
Okay. All right. So here's a quick view of the agenda, and we'll go over quickly some of the front end stuff. And I really want to get into more of where, what, and how we share so that you understand it. It's very structured because it is member to member, company to company sharing, and a platform that allows that with a lot of pre-arranged legal agreements in place so everyone's comfortable with it. And we do some pretty cool stuff as well that you'll be hearing about. So, for instance, CyberSecurity 2020 is coming up actually next week, which is pretty cool. And of course, most of our members are attending that DEF CON, and I suspect listening to John, as well as some of the other activities in that Hacker Village. So lots of really good activities also happening across our membership. So as we look at the emerging threat, this is really an amazing time for the automotive industry overall. I mean, it's fascinating to see what's happening with the digital age and the vehicle. And I personally am really excited about it, as I know many of you are, and you're working in the area. But what's so amazing to me is how it's really going to transform our lives going forward. And I think it's pretty amazing the progress that's already been made, and we know what's coming, right? So there's some stats up here on that, on where we're heading in the near future. But you see a red Volkswagen in there, and I actually put that up there because when I was around 16, we had this Volkswagen that we would go to the beach with, and we loved it because it was a convertible. And I did a lot of the mechanical work on changing oil, doing the tune-up, all of that goodness, and looking at the electric system back then. Well, it was basically a radio. So I could draw that on a cocktail napkin. Now, if you look at it today, we're talking about 100 million lines of code and growing. And so with that, it's pretty amazing to see how interconnected we are. That's more lines of code than what's in a jet fighter. So my former background was I was a Boeing engineer at the Boeing company for most of my career until I retired and came over to help start the Auto-ISAC. And what is so amazing to me is the functionality that goes into these vehicles is just stunning. But with that connectivity, of course, we all know with that connectivity, that's why you're here, comes cyber risk, right? So the risks are multiplying. We know it's getting greater and greater as we integrate more and more. And we're looking at how do we handle that risk and what does that look like? But the other thing it really forces us to do is to work together. This is a complex, expansive area. And certainly that means an attack surface potentially, if not architected or engineered well. And so understanding that and understanding the motivations of perhaps threat actors and other bad folks that might want to come in and do damage really starts to broaden the aperture for many that have been in automotive for many years, right? Very different dynamic than what we had in the past. So what we want to do is actually work together, right? So why an ISAC? What's an information sharing and analysis center? every company and every organization must act individually to really manage that cyber risk, protect, defend, respond, etc. They have to make an internal investment on that, both in skills and training, people, technology, etc. But the problem is so large and potentially so damaging that one really needs to really work together with the other white hats, right? And the other folks, right, that are in the sector or in the automotive global industry. So important to work together because, it's really important to identify any of these emerging threats quickly, the vulnerabilities early and get them fixed, pull limited resources, help to fight that adaptive adversary, really share that intelligence so that we do know what's coming and we can protect the industry. We learned about that in aviation at 9/11. It was clearly an incredible study in how one needs to be able to collaborate across the board and share information. Had we done it better pre 9/11 on 9/10, we may have avoided 9/11. Not sure we would have, but we may have. And with that in mind, that helps to put this into reality of what could happen to the automotive industry. And how do we really proactively shape best practices so that we can all move further faster, right? How do we build that trust across the industry and really across really the whole resiliency of the automotive sector? Really an important mission space. So here's a high-level framework for cybersecurity. I'm sure most of you agree with those high-level principles there. At the end of the day, each company, each member has to really worry about these 13 or so items. What you see in the green teal color are the areas that the Auto-ISAC help the different member companies in, right? We help to really build best practices. So we've built 7 best practices, member written and developed. By the way, they're on our website. If you haven't seen them, you can download them. They're pretty high level, pretty aspirational, not very technical, but they give a good sense and a good direction on how to do things. We, of course, inside the ISAC, we do have more specificity on some of those, where we understand the threat a little bit better, understand the risk in that particular area, and of course, we're working to communicate that and assure broad situational awareness across our member companies. The other thing the ISAC does, it's actually it's a public-private partnership with the government. Not only with the government, but with other partners. But initially, it was the first instantiation was working with the government, in this particular case, the US government. And that was built because there was critical infrastructure that was getting attacked on a daily basis. Again, think 9/11 for a minute. And there was no mechanism for the government to necessarily coordinate or collaborate with private industry with intelligence, right? So this ISAC was stood up. This model, if you will, of a public-private partnership was stood up so that we could collaborate. So, for instance, today, the Auto-ISAC has an agreement with the government that I can get data feeds from them. And not only that, there are about 24 ISACs today, and we share data across each ISAC. So it's government, private, private, private. And we are not required to give the government anything, and most times we don't, but we do get some very interesting information from them. So it really helps us. So quickly looking at benefits at a glance, I pulled a slide from our European event in Munich, which was a little over a year ago. And actually BMW presented this. And what they said is, here's at a glance what we do, right? We do automotive threat intelligence, we do best practice guides, we do networking events, tabletop exercises, workshops, fairly fast growing community, although not as fast as John's in ASRG. We are slow and steady, and we represent probably a lot of the OEMs and suppliers that are actually, of the OEMs, most of the automobile folks that are actually on the road today. With that, I will say there's a whole lot behind those words, and I'll share a little bit more about how we do things. So jump 1 is first building trust. New members and partners are joining, but we have to understand how do we do that legally, right? There's a legal vetting process and legal controls that are in place. I learned from the best of the ISACs, which was Financial Services ISAC, which they've been in business for 22 years now. And they are a global organization. They have member companies that exceed what John has. That's pretty large if you think about it from a global perspective. So they're over, I think they're at 7,000 or something companies. And this includes everything from the large financial institutions down to the mom and pop community banks and credit unions. So we embraced that model, we brought it in, but it still requires a lot more building of trust. And we do that through working groups and committees, and it's very member driven. We do what our members want. We work with them to define what that looks like. We do a lot of really great engagements, and those engagements help to build that trust, right? Getting to know each other, understanding where everyone else is coming from. I think one of the best comments I got, I'm gonna give you an example. And I'm going to use the names Ford and GM for a minute. So I remember my Ford guy said to me literally about 2 months ago, he said, the best thing that I get out of the ISAC is the relationships. And he said, as Ford, I would never, ever pick up the phone and call GM, my GM counterpart. Today I will, because I know him. And now I'm working with him in the ISAC, and I can have a conversation with him. Of course, non-competitively, but this is really great, right? So learning from each other as well as helping each other is our motto. We do a lot of different things across the community, and you'll see there's a strategic partner program. I get into that a little bit later. And we do some really technical deep stuff as well. So for instance, we are doing some expert collaborations on the MITRE automotive attack model. And so we are working on building something that's very meaningful for our members. They're actually building it, right? So when I say we, I use the word we. Our Auto-ISAC staff is limited, but our members are really what drives all of this, and they are the ones that are doing this work. So very impactful. The next really important thing, of course, is about sharing that threat intelligence, right? Understanding, is this relevant? We're all inundated with data, information, but we need knowledge, right? So really understanding how to curate that information into meaningful data that's actionable intelligence for our membership. And we do that, again, our staff is very limited. We do that by reaching out and working together with the technical experts across the community and truly across the globe. Right? You guys know better than any of us at staff do. And so working that is really, really job one, and understanding how we can share and helping each other. We do have a platform, a portal that we share threat intelligence. It's called the RED platform, RED, Reporting, Engagement, Discussion. We do conference calls, we do alerts, we have analyst working groups, we have virtual and in-person activities. Of course, nothing too in-person right now because of COVID, but we continue to work together very closely across all of our membership. And I wanted to put this up again. This came out of Munich as well, the BMW event. And this is actually a process to show, hey, this intelligence that we get from the Auto-ISAC is really good. And by the way, it really does map into what we do as a company, right? And so there's really three important areas that they were looking at: the security engineering, security operations, and of course, this security technology and functions down at that ECU level, right? Really, all three of those are so critical to building the best and most secure design, but also understanding what happens when it's already out there and maybe there's a vulnerability. How do you deal with that operationally? So threat intelligence comes in. I mean, member companies have a lot of different sources of intelligence. You know, they pull that together to really understand how they do their own threat analysis against their architecture. Really important. That's kind of how it fits together. We also provide sort of the best practices and guidance on how to do an incident and how to respond to one. And if there's anything that's industry-wide, we're going to be there to help orchestrate and help our members work through that as well. So our just overall mission is to really strengthen the global automotive industry against cyber attacks, build resiliency, really, and really make sure that when something happens, not if, but when it happens, that we can help respond and get back to business quickly for our members. An attack on one is an attack on all. So our members really are working together to collaborate to say, yeah, We just have to agree that we're not going to really compete on certain things, right? I mean, there's still the architecture and everything else that you'll compete on, but let's just share as much as we can. And there's ways that we do that to anonymize things that really help them share in a meaningful way. So timely sharing of threat and vulnerability information, of course, building those strong relations and trusts, developing effective response plans, and then ensuring consistent cyber maturity and capability. So that's what we are, our vision mission is for Auto-ISAC 2020. And bottom line is that we really talk about our top line goal, which is zero safety related cyber events in the industry. That's pretty significant goal, but we decided that nothing less than that was acceptable. So that's what our board decided. And here we are. And of course, we're looking at these three key pillars here: information sharing and awareness, education, and of course, relationships. A lot of words on this slide. I really want to focus in on what we don't do, because I've talked a little bit about what we do, but what we don't do is law enforcement activities. We don't do infrastructure, security infrastructure design, and we don't do policy. So we're a tactical organization. And what we do is provide the information in a timely and effective way, and ensuring that our members are aware of what may be happening that could hurt their business, could hurt their vehicle, could be an impact to the company. We're really a central point of coordination and communication, right, across a very global industry, as we know. We include heavy and light duty vehicles, commercial vehicle fleets and carriers, and we are very focused on product, the connected vehicle product cybersecurity. We are now branching into IT and OT as it relates to the connected vehicle. And as John and ASRG are, we are a nonprofit, and we are governed by a board of directors. What we do is intel sharing and analysis. We build best practices, and we develop partnerships. We also have a very broad community, and I'll talk a little bit more about that, because perhaps your company isn't a member, but you want to be. You can be in the community. It does limit what you can do. If you're a member, of course, it's full access, but the individual partnerships are a little bit less than that. We'll talk a little bit more about that. So member benefits, you can see the services listed there on the left-hand side. We have varying levels of maturity across those. We'll talk a little bit more about a few of them. Why it matters: it really helps companies find and fix issues faster, maintain a trusted brand, of course, in industry, and of course, staying ahead of regulations is really important, right? Maybe even shaping it a little bit. And of course, it really does help, and I believe this truly, it helps if we understand cybersecurity well. It helps what we do in engineering, I think, to build faster, right? If we can do that through a trusted forum and really understand what not to do, so that we can build something that really is secure and resilient as we move forward in our companies. We consider ourselves a learning environment, much like ASRG, right? A little more formalized, perhaps, but still, nonetheless, that's job one also, is that learning environment. So there are a lot of activities around collaboration, early detection, crowdsourcing, understanding what other folks are doing, how are they doing it. We do tabletop exercises, we do discussion drills. So we've done a C-suite tabletop, a legal tabletop. One of the challenges always are the lawyers. They don't like to share much, and they are really about risk aversion. So getting them in at the table is really critical and really important, imperative. We do quarterly workshops. Normally, we would be face-to-face. The best things that we do are the analyst working groups, and those are the very technical people from membership that get together literally every quarter, 2 days. We usually go to a member site, and they deep dive and they drill on all sorts of technical issues. We do webinars as well. We have working groups that meet monthly, so they're member driven. They're deciding what they want to do and how they want to do it. And they're working in real-time challenges as well. If something pops up, we might be tapping a couple of our members to see if they have solutions or mitigation techniques already developed. And we have committees that advise the board and what they want to do. And then, of course, we do have Some things that are open, like our annual summit, we'll talk a little bit about that and invite all of you to attend that. And we have community calls, and I'd like to invite all of you to attend that, which you're allowed to do. Spotlight on best practices. As you can see here, what we've done is develop 7 best practice guides. Those are listed there on the lower right-hand corner. Those, again, were all member-driven. What we are now embarking on is education and training on all of those. Members training other members. How did you implement your incident response plan? What does it look like? When do you bring in the Auto-ISAC? What kind of skills do you have leading that, et cetera, et cetera. So we're doing trainings across the board, members training members. So it's been a really fantastic series of events. Member roster, these are, again, company member roster, because we are a member of company organization. And as you can see, you can look there and see if you can find your company on that list. We have 56 members right now today. And membership basically is by company, but then a member point of contact identifies who they want to get involved. So perhaps you may be on this list, but you don't know much about the Auto-ISAC, or you haven't been engaged and you'd like to, let us know. And if you're on this list, I can tell you who your member point of contact is, and we or you can reach out to that person to see if you can get more engaged. I wanted to give you a sense of who we are and who's leading us. So our executive committee, which are the officers of the board of directors, I have 23 board members, so it's quite a large board. But I also have an executive committee that's made up of 5. And you can see those 5 up here on the screen. They are true leaders in their organizations and in industry, and they are doing a fabulous job. I really enjoy working with them. They help me on the day-to-day operations of this organization. And then we have an advisory board, which are all non-OEMs, and though that's made up of a Continental, Conti, and ZF are the chair and the vice chair there for our advisory board. And then we also have affinity groups, and affinity groups are made up of companies. If there's 5 or more companies that are in a certain area, like a supplier or a commercial vehicle, they can form a group, an affinity group, and also be on the board, so they can also drive what we do. And you can see those gentlemen there. Our external engagement, we do communicate to the public via our website. Our website does contain our best practice guides, and they're available for download. They're not very technical, so I'll warn you guys, because I think this is a pretty technical group, but they are out there, and I encourage you to look at them. We have monthly call presentations, and all of our monthly calls are done at a TLP, what we call TLP green, and then ultimately put TLP white on our website. So you can actually go in there and look at the last year of slides and who spoke and so forth. And you might find a topic you're interested. We go from very high level, very strategic, kind of fun, like Comic Heroes was yesterday, to very technical. So we've had NIST in, SAE, some very technical conversations around encryption, all over the place, but lots of good content. So you can find that on the website. And of course, we have our Auto Summit event information on there, and you can register if you'd like to come to our virtual event coming up. So what's the traffic light protocol? The traffic light protocol is what we use to handle information. Basically, it's a handling protocol. And this is outlined in our operating rules. As you can see, I put up here some of the governance documents that we use in order to be able to do what we do member to member. So it's a bit complicated, but bottom line is it's all spelled out in these documents. Members get to see them. And every meeting does require a few more formalities than, say, what John just did today. We do follow the traffic light protocol. You can see what that looks like. It's just like a traffic light. If it's white, it means it's open source, and that's on the website. If it's green, it means just community. So in order to be on the community, you have to be on our distribution list. And if you're on our distribution list, then you get things at green. Amber tends to be where we fall for just member-to-member conversations, and in general, what we do in the ISAC. And red could be a one-on-one specific conversation, or maybe, several folks, but we're talking about a very sensitive activity. And so we keep that very close hold. So what that means is we don't tell anyone else. that's not in the room. We also read a antitrust statement. Again, this is done through legal, and it does include EU and US antitrust laws. That's one of the first things that we did. And at every meeting, we do have a roll call. It's more formal than say here, but it does serve its purpose. And so roll call is taken, membership is confirmed. Members drive every working group. So there's a chair and a vice chair that's a member. And then there's always an Auto-ISAC lead that supports them. And also for the committees and board level minutes are produced. What kind of information are we sharing? So let's talk a little bit about how do we get data. So we're not a threat feed, right? So right up front. Our contributors there on the left-hand side, as you can see in yellow, are OEM suppliers, commercial vehicles. Those are all our members. And sometimes folks that are not our members yet, but fall in those categories. So they might contribute, they might talk about what they're seeing and what they're saying. And there's others, right? And you can see in the purple area, they are vendors, government, academia, researchers, and other ISACs. We get data from multiple sources, and that goes into what we call our intelligent feed. We look at that. What kind of information is it? How should we verify or vet it? Is it real? Is it important? Do we need to get this out immediately? Is it something we can do a little more research on or understanding about? And if it really is going to affect the industry, then we get it onto what we call red, where we have an alert, a report, and other activities that we would do there, including calls and so forth. So ultimately, the takeaway here is there's a diversity of information that drives what we do, but we certainly vet it and we work with our members to vet it. They're our staff, right? Bottom line, they're the technical experts, and so they do the vetting to really ensure that we're identifying the correct threats. We're distilling this information to really get the data out so those vulnerabilities can be repaired and fixed quickly. And of course, validating what we've done there. So again, what types of intelligence? We've talked about incident, threats, vulnerabilities, basically even shared awareness, like what's going on in the industry. What's happening? Is there's DEF CON, right? So we'll talk about DEF CON. We'll talk about who's going. They'll come back and talk about what they saw. They go to any kind of conference. They talk a lot about what's going on in the industry. So it's not just hard intelligence or whatever. It's all of that, and we allow our members to be able to share anonymously. So if they're not comfortable with having their name on it, we produce it as the Auto-ISAC. That's one of the primary functions that we serve as an ISAC. We control access by the traffic light protocol, and of course we do have a critical index of when we send something out, so members know how seriously to take it. Well, let's talk a little bit about inside the organization. So it is member driven. It is a closed organization. It only allows member companies that are permitted to have access to the data that is shared within the Auto-ISAC. This gets to all the lawyers and the legal agreements. But different members have different needs and sensitivities, and there's some concerns. And so everybody says, well, do I have to share? Ultimately, the answer is no, but we certainly encourage it because the data, the best data that comes out of the ISAC comes from members. So, and we provide the opportunity to share it anonymously or with attribution if they so desire. And partners can share with us. We've had many different security researchers come to us through our website that say, hey, we found something. We can't seem to get to the right person, and Acme Automotive, can you connect us? And we'll have a TLP red conversation with that member. We'll get them connected with the researcher, and we let them take it from there. And hopefully, soon we'll hear about that at a TLP member report or alert. So we do that, and we do it very carefully. That traffic light protocol can be found at that website if you want to learn more about how we do things. I want to talk about vulnerability disclosure programs. When we first started, many of our companies didn't know what they were, and they didn't understand them. And so one of the things that we did is we decided to build a workshop to train our members on what is a VDP and why should they have one and what does it look like. And so we partnered with HackerOne, and they built a very successful workshop that we held 2 years ago, actually up in Detroit in Cobo Center. We had probably 100 folks there. So it was 27 companies, but of course in the company they can invite multiple people. And they did a fabulous job. So from that, I believe out of that, I know that many of our members joined with HackerOne and BugCrowd and some others, right? So what they get, what the sponsor gets, is at least ability to not market, but to educate our members. We don't allow them. In fact, HackerOne did a fabulous job, because I told them they can't put HackerOne anywhere except when I introduce them, and they have to teach based on the subject and not about selling HackerOne subscriptions. And they did a fabulous job with that. And ultimately, what resulted in that is that they got a number of members from the Auto-ISAC that joined HackerOne. So I don't want to belabor it, but it's such an important area, and I know that that's an area of interest for many. We really are encouraging our members. We are working with them when they do find something, and how we can share that across the greater industry. High level, what's trending? I'm going to give you a little more specificity, but I kind of grouped this up at a very, very high level. You've all seen this. I'm not even going to brief it, because I think this is, it's like, Faye, I know all that, right? What we've really seen is a huge uptick, though, in ransomware lately. And I do want to highlight that if you're not working in that area, it's really spiked. And it's COVID, right? It's like, and they're out there. It was starting to spike, I think, even before COVID, And so we've seen the automotive industry get pretty hit hard here, right? And there was even a recent one. It was in the news in June, I think. Pretty major OEM was hit. So that's happening. Of course, the key theft, the car theft, the key fob, that continues to strangle folks a little bit, right? How do you do it? What do you do? I was hoping we'd get an industry-wide information. Now, once a month, we have our community call, which you're going to be all invited to attend if you'd like. And our cyber intel analyst, Jake Walker, comes in and he talks about what's trending at a TLP green level. And so I pulled the last 2 months in so that I could give you a little sense of what we talked about here. So there was a large amount of reporting around ECANs, ransomware. And that's really due to the disruption of ICS and OT processes and services, right, during the encryption process. Though it does not appear the ECAN specifically targets ICS and OT controls, there has been some attacks that, in fact, may be running on a host, including several commonly used for ICS or OT controls prior to encryption. So really important that we identified that. We assess that other ransomware families will continue that technique of disabling software and limiting network connectivity prior to infecting hosts. Really important point here. So we advise that similar disruptive activity by ECANs and other similar ransomware may really disrupt and cause unknown consequences to perhaps the manufacturing environment, the back end on the OT side. And so really important for automakers and folks that are in that industry really to worry about it. Really important as you look through the rest of these, I'm not going to brief every one of them. I wanted to highlight the ECANs. Obviously, there's a lot of other ransomware out there. It's just fascinating to see where more and more attacks are going into that ICS environment. The researchers in this next one are really examining more sophisticated honeypot networks, emulating an ICS environment, and that helps to deceive attackers. Using those honeypots, they were able to really record and study attackers' techniques and procedures, right, the TTPs. So the researchers captured, I think, something like 80,000 interactions with honeypots and 4 previously unknown, oh, by the way, or zero-day attacks. So that was pretty insightful on that one. And so you might want to take a look at that if you haven't already. And finally, recent reporting on, and I can't say the word, Sonoki ransomware family. It's adapting its tactics techniques to scanning the point of sale, right, systems, and we know that one from Target, right? As noted by the authors of this article, this scanning for point of sale systems or other operational activity is not common with most ransomware, so something to look out for. It may be indicative that ransomware operators are looking for more innovative ways to either steal money or extort money, right, from victims. So really important that folks are sort of saying, gee, it's just not at the the product side, right? So helping to bring that awareness to our members and understanding the integration and the need to look at these other kinds of things besides what might be in the connected vehicle is so important, right? So very important. So this month's What's Trending really describes some, more of the ransomware attacks. We wanted to provide a little more insight into these events because it's suggesting that threat actors are demonstrating really this increased capability. Again, we're doubling down on this ICS, industrial control systems, and OT, or operational technology. I used those terms yesterday and realized hadn't described them. But since then, DHS has actually released an alert. It's a joint product from DHS with another intel agency that recommends immediate actions to reduce exposure across OT and ICS systems. So really significant. So we're seeing this thing ratchet up, right? Really ratcheting up. Below in the noteworthy news, there's 4 links to notable events that are related to IC and OT space. So please take a look at those. The first article, which is Garmin, really discusses the disruption of operational technology with Fitbits, right? Fitness trackers and GPS devices. And so we know how important GPS is to the automotive industry. Just take a look at that from a potential, again, impact of ransomware and what that may mean to our environment, and particularly in the automotive industry. Reporting recently also emerged around a second attack on Israel's water system. So you see that when these all have links to them when you get the slides. This is interesting. So a water system, why is Faye talking about a water system? Well, again, industrial control system. But what it suggests is that threat actors are still seeking to disrupt or damage a facility, right? And they're learning how to do it and learning how to do it well. It's exceedingly sophisticated. Maybe a nation state, we don't know. But it appears that the techniques that are performed by these threat actors is effective. And cyber physical attacks against critical infrastructure are really happening more and more. And we need to be aware of it, and our members need to be aware and be really cognizant of this. FBI issues warning about ELDs. So there are electronic logging devices are a very important topic in the transportation sector, in particular in the heavy vehicle side. They were just mandated to implement in December of last year, but there was limited guidance on the cybersecurity of these devices. So guess what happens? These ELDs have no cybersecurity in them, right? So there's a recent report that we have from the FBI that notes these concerns regarding ELDs and some of the issues that have already started happening. Lastly, a recent report around Clarity highlights the potential risks regarding network edge in ICS and OT environments, right? So again, really important with the advent of all of the remote work and COVID and everything that's happening and everything being connected. Their work emphasizes the importance of ensuring secure remote connections in all environments. This is hard for all of us, right? And we're even struggling with that ourselves. There are several severe vulnerabilities affecting network edge devices that you should be aware of. And these are highlighted in several products that, of course, we are sharing internal with our members. So I did want to give you a little bit of a sort of a under the tent look at some of what we're seeing and what we're concerned about. Moving along, I want to talk for a minute about the activity that we are working as an ISAC with DHS. And so DHS with the ISACs perform a really very large scale event. And that event is, of course, orchestrated. It's a tabletop exercise, but it's more than tabletop, right? It's a very significant activity. As an ISAC, we are invited to that. And it really is about strengthening cybersecurity preparedness and response and how we work. So the ISAC is going to be very active in this, and a couple of our members are as well. So basically, this is a really significant, large-scale coordinated cyber attack that affects critical infrastructure in the U.S., right? So it's focused certainly on the U.S., it's Department of Homeland Security. But there is a core exercise scenario that's developed. It's developed collectively with many of the members that sit around the table with DHS. They do this every 18 months. It's such a large-scale event. And they have control cells that do a lot of this, and they put it into something very meaningful. This year, of course, it's going to be focused on virtual, right? Because that's what we all are. So, and I think that's more realistic, actually. I'm pretty excited that they decided to go forward with this. It was supposed to happen in March, and it's been delayed till actually next week. So we are actively preparing. And one of the reasons Josh didn't make it, John, is because he's just buried with getting prepared for that. So very exciting activity that we do. And this is the second year we've done it as an ISAC. We learned a lot in the last one, and one of the things our members started to realize that they really didn't know when to share with the ISAC, and many times that's very typical, right? When do I share outside of my company? That's the hardest question for many of our members, and they didn't share. And what the cyberstorm taught them was that had they shared earlier and often with the ISAC, we had data that could have helped them move quicker and solve or resolve the issue faster. So it was a great learning for everyone, and it really highlighted the need for collaboration. Now I'd like to shift a little bit over to partnerships and working together. So as John's mentioned, we've known each other for several years. I remember sitting with him for 2 hours, John, I think was it in Munich, I think, where we sat and we thought we were going to have a 10-minute talk, and I think 2.5 hours later, he said, oops, I've got to get moving and get on the road here. So fascinating to learn what ASRG was doing. And, I think he was interested in how we did things here on this side. Partnerships are really important to the Auto-ISAC. They add a richness to our overall fabric of what we do, really critical. We are really open to that. Of course, we have our limitations on our membership because of how we are designed and what we have to do with that public-private partnership. But overall, we are really embracing partners and all that means, right? So it really helps to support us and helps everyone to learn, right? We really want to do that, to build a vibrant and robust sharing environment. And I don't have to say more than that because I know that John's already done that and you guys get it in spades. But I did want to highlight how our partnership works a little bit. And I want to really invite all of you to really engage with us. So there's no requirement to sign an NDA or a strategic partner agreement, although ASRG and Auto-ISAC have signed an NDA finally. But there's no requirement to do that. And we have, in the community side, we have an allowance to allow individuals to come in. The only requirement is that you have to fill out a form. So we do need to know who you are. It's just part of what our members want. But with that, you'll receive our Driven, which is our daily newsletter. And that newsletter is basically kind of TLP white, but it provides you with what we see as important, what's going on across the community. So we produce that 5 days a week. And you also would be invited to our community town halls, kind of like what John's doing here. We do one once a month. And we open that up to all the community. So we encourage you to click on that Google form and fill it out and send it on over, and we'll put you on our list. It usually takes about a week, and then you'll be on the list. We also encourage you to attend our summit, and we'll talk a little bit about the summit in a minute. And even if you don't do any of those and you see something and you want to say something, great DHS acronym, but please come forward and don't hesitate. You'll see my information's in the back, or certainly tell John, and John can get in contact with me. Happy to learn, right? So this is the Driven. This is comes out in email every day. Driven stands for Daily Research, Incident, Vulnerability, and Executive News. So happy to put you on that list if you're interested. And then on the community meeting, we meet the first Wednesday of the month. Of course, this is in DC time. So, but hopefully that still works for Europe. And we do feature speakers. And you could even say, hey, I want to be a speaker. I want John to come in and speak because I think it's so important what you guys are doing at ASRG. So I'd love to have John come and talk about what's happening in ASRG. He's moved so quickly and so fast. We want everyone to know about it so other folks can maybe join the meetup. So you can see what we've done to date. I won't belabor that. Again, happy to have you involved in that. Now, Summit. So Summit's coming up 2 months, right? We're almost 2 months out. Our Summit will be held October 14, 15. It was to be in, well, I let you guess what that car is, because if you know what that car is, you'll know where the Summit was going to be held. But now it's going to be held virtually. So the Summit is open to all. It's TLP white. Many of our members speak at the Summit. It's a cross between strategy, policy, well, I wouldn't say policy, strategy and top level thinking, as well as technical. It doesn't get real deep technically, but more to come on that. At this time, I would say that because it's virtual this year, it will still probably be fairly high, but you'll hear what our members are working on. You might even hear about the automotive attack model that they're working on. So if you want to register, there is a registration. There is a funding requirement. I think the individual is $150. You could buy, if you get your company to pay for it, and they pay, I think, depending if you're a member, it's 600. If you're not, it's a little bit more. I can't remember the numbers, but you get 6 passes for that. Whatever you pay for this year, you get 6 passes. Whereas when it's in person, it's not. So it's a great time to join and to come see what we're doing. Now I want to segue over to what's happening in the Auto-ISAC. We're obviously somewhat US-based, but we are really truly a global community, because if you look at my board of directors, most of the companies are headquartered in Europe, followed by Japan, right? Followed by Asia. We have the least amount headquartered here. So, but the bottom line is we've already started on the journey of integrating Europe in, and we have many, many members in Germany, of course, and Europe. And we held our first European event back a year ago at BMW Welt. It was a fantastic event. John was there. And then our second one was held at the Bosch in Stuttgart. And so we really enjoyed that. That was last November. We had planned on being in ZF in June and then somewhere else in November. But well, now we've gone virtual thanks to COVID. So we are having a virtual event on September 3rd. Now, I would like to invite those of you who are an OEM or supplier to that event. The only caveat is from my membership is that you have to be an automotive OEM, tier 1 or tier 2 supplier, and you have to register with that email. So you can't register fayfrancie at hotmail.com. It has to be fayfrancie at automotiveisac.com, just for instance. But you'll see what we're doing. You'll get a peek under the table. I know that John will be there, so I'm sure he can be happy to come back and share with you what happened. But you are free to register for that event. So I've left a link in there for you if you'd like to do so. So I won't spend a lot of time in this, but we do have a partner program. It looks complicated, but the bottom line is there's a couple of categories. The one on the left side, strategic partners, that does require an agreement. And what we do is we get a little bit closer with folks that can't be members, like vendors. And like HackerOne is a great example of that. We consider them a strategic partner. We came together, we had an agreement, we did a workshop together. It worked really well. And then the community partners all on the right-hand side of that red line is anyone can join. It's more of a handshake than anything else, and we just collaborate with folks across the community. This gives you a sense of who our current partners are, and I'm not going to read it. It's a long list. I will say that ASRG is over here, so there you go. So please join. This is my last slide. So really important to work together to help build a resiliency, really to protect our industry. So critical for us. And having lived in aviation for most of my career and seeing the devastation that 9/11 caused, trust me, it could happen here. And we don't want that to happen, right? So we really want to work together. We want to really help understand and institutionalize a response, because it's not if, but when it happens. We want to be ready for it and be able to get back up and running quickly. It really does require a bit of a shift from safety to safety, security, and resilience, and sharing. I left a quote down there at the bottom, again from BMW. Our BMW vice president briefed at their event, and I took a quote from his comments. So with that, John, I think that's it. I'm happy to answer any questions if anyone has any.
Yeah, Faye, just from my side, thank you very much for such a nice presentation. And a good understanding about what you guys are doing here for the automotive market. I mean, it's really important that we have communities like Auto-ISAC and like ASRG to support the community where the OEMs and the suppliers can't do it. We know that everybody can focus on themselves, but then we would all make the same mistakes and we would all have pretty unsecure products. So I think it's really important. Thank you very much for the presentation.
My pleasure.
We do have a few questions here. So the first one is with regulations pushing for monitoring or like VSOCs seem to be the future, which I guess is for threat intel, surely likely to engage with the Auto-ISACs. Will then the Auto-ISACs allow to share threat intel publicly after some anonymization, making it anonymous? Or will it only be between private VSOCs with NDAs signed? My question is, with NDA signed, we might lose the impact like public CVE-based databases had on IT security. So I think PP is asking, listen, is Auto-ISAC thinking about the opportunity to support the industry with publicly available threat intelligence somehow?
Well, I think it's a great question, right? And it's a question that will be answered by my board of directors. But I will say this, that as we know where we're heading as an industry, we know that we're going to have smart cities, we're going to have, all of these different engagements across a very broad ecosystem. One of the things we're looking at doing is building a 2025 vision and understanding what that looks like, because ultimately, absolutely, information will have to be shared. It will still probably likely be managed, but in a coordinated way, in an important way, um, because you really need all the stakeholders having ability to have that information. There is a caveat with can't be necessarily open completely because, well, the bad guys get it too. So it has to be thought through. I don't know the answer to it, but I suspect the answer will be we have to design it that way, right? We have to design it in a meaningful way that really allows for this information to get out quickly. And let me answer another part of that is, as the Auto-ISAC, our mission is to really help secure and build resiliency for the automotive sector. So let's say I get information that affects a member that is not, a company that is not currently a member. We will do everything in our power to reach out to that company that's not a member and advise them of that information and help them, regardless of if they're a member or not. So that's the commitment that the automotive industry has made, and that's happened once or twice actually. And so we will continue to do that, right? It is about the whole of industry.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. It's the industry itself, not only the members. But thank you, PP, for asking the question. Richard has a question as well. Is there somewhere you can point us to find out more about the Mitra Attack Automotive Working Group, and also to find out more about observed TTPs in the automotive industry?
Okay, so the MITRE ATT&CK model is a pretty well-known model, right? And that model, you could find that on probably just Google MITRE ATT&CK. Now, I think the question really was around specifically automotive, the one that we're working on, and I gave you a little insight into what one of our working groups is doing. That's not for sharing at this time. They're still working through it. It's a work in progress, if you will. I'm hoping that ultimately our members will, once they feel comfortable, will, like we have with the best practice guides, we'll share that with the broader industry. Mm-hmm. And what was the second part of the question that Richard had?
The second part was to find out more about observed TTPs in the automotive industry.
I see. So we are working on something along those lines in the Auto-ISAC, but again, not quite ready for prime time. So stand by. And any great thoughts, please send them our way.
Great. And is this something that we can also send you information about? Hey, listen, we think it would be really cool to address this topic.
Absolutely. And
Right.
if anyone online really wants to even share sort of where they're heading, we have the community call as a forum to perhaps have a presentation on that.
Very good. All right, Richard, thank you very much. We have one last question. I think PP is also asking. It's not exactly directly linked to Auto-ISAC, however, still interesting. The automotive was just taking security seriously, but then COVID struck, and now it is more about saving the industry, less focus on capex intensive security. Do you see OEMs postponing security again?
Well, it's a great question and it's a hard one, right? I mean, we know that if the industry doesn't survive or a company doesn't survive, then it's over. And we don't want to see that. So the industry does have to take some resources and probably focus on how they ensure that they are resilient from an economic business perspective. Having said that, I can tell you that my membership is as active as they have ever been. In fact, in some ways, even more active. So I know that that grassroots and the continuity of understanding the subject matter is still a very high priority for most of our members, from what I see.
Mhm. Well, and I think I would have to add to this too. Budgets and all this stuff is really important, or capex expenditures. But at the end of the day, we don't want security to become a safety issue. And just like your
Right.
goals were showing, we don't want anybody to be hurt because we weren't able to ensure the security of the automobile. So,
Absolutely.
all right. Well, I think we don't have any more questions. Faye, I think that's probably good enough for today. Um, if the slides are going to be available, correct?
Yes.
Great. So these slides will be available. I will link them onto the YouTube video afterwards. Um, Faye, before we close, would you like to say anything specific?
Well, thank you for having me today, John, and thanks to the folks that came in and listened to the presentation. Happy to hear from you at any point. My information is up on the screen and will be in the slide deck, or certainly through John. And we look forward to working together with ASRG to really help build that resiliency across the automotive industry. Thank you so very much for your time today.
Well, and Faye, thank you very much for such a wonderful presentation, for taking the time out of your own day as well to come tell us about Auto-ISAC. Um, and I'm really looking forward to working together with the Auto-ISAC in the future, looking for the opportunities that we can find together. So, all right, everyone, thank you very much for attending today. I think it was a great session. Don't forget, we have DEF CON starting tomorrow, Car Hacking Village. Be there. It's going to be very interesting. It's in PST time. So we're talking about um, we're talking about this is like evening in Europe, Eastern Standard Time. I think it's midday. So go join. It's going to be really interesting. There's going to be virtual car hacking. These guys have connected vehicles to the internet that does not sound safe. So come join us. All right. I'll see you all there. All right, guys. Have a good evening. Bye.